Well, we've all seen in the media recently where they just seem to target the cruise lines for every single COVID case on board. Well, Royal Caribbean, they've decided they're going to put out an email with some realistic expectations that passengers can expect on upcoming cruises. And we'll get into all of it right after this. Chris here with High Seas Cruising, and welcome to today's video. Alright, before we get into our Royal Caribbean story, I do have two other quick stories for you. First is going to be Cunard Cruise Lines. Well, their Queen Mary II has canceled their January 3rd stop in New York and instead is going to remain in Barbados to await additional crew members. So in an abundance of caution, they're going to take on additional crew members to fill essential roles before they head back to the UK. Passengers on board have already been informed of this situation, but it just means they're going to skip New York on January the 3rd. So we also know that we have cruise ships that have been denied entry into ports. Particularly, we've had a couple of cruise ships that have been denied entry into Mexico due to COVID cases on board the ship. So the Mexican government did put out a statement on Tuesday stating that cruise ships with COVID cases on board can still dock. And of course, this announcement came after cruise ships were denied entry into Mexico. And now, like I said, the Mexican government has come back and said, well, wait a minute. These cruise ships can dock, and individuals who are asymptomatic and fully vaccinated can, of course, get off the ship and enjoy the ports. But if you are positive for COVID-19 or have symptoms of COVID-19, those individuals would not be allowed to get off the ship. But at least that stops the ship from being denied entry altogether. Now look, Mexico has been friendly to cruising the entire time, and they have put very few restrictions on the cruise lines before allowing them to dock and enter into the country. Look, they are really focused on the economic benefits of cruising, want to keep that going, denying cruise ships and denying people who are not positive for COVID-19 and are not showing symptoms from coming in and spending their money. Apparently that doesn't work for them. So let's hopefully see if that prevents more cruise ships from being denied entry into Mexico. And finally, Royal Caribbean. Like I said, we've all noticed the targeted attacks by the media against the cruise lines. They did this in the very beginning of the pandemic. It was always the cruise lines, the cruise lines, the cruise lines, until cruising shut down. And even with cruising shut down, they still managed to talk about it. Well, Royal Caribbean has noticed these news articles as well. They've seen what the news media has put out, and to counter that, they have put out their own email. Now, they have sent this email to all cruise passengers booked between now and January the 17th, and it simply lets them know realistic expectations of what they can expect on their cruise, what they could see on their cruise, and what could possibly happen on their cruise. I'm going to go ahead and throw that email up here for all of us to take a look at. Dear guest, with the increase in COVID-19 cases due to the Omicron variant, our public health guidance continues to evolve, and we want to let you know what to expect as we prepare to welcome you on board. All crew members are fully vaccinated, have received booster shots when eligible, and are tested on a weekly basis with high contact front of house service staff tested every 3 days. All your fellow guests 12 and older are fully vaccinated and tested before boarding, and the small number of children sailing who are 11 and under get a second test at the terminal and are increasingly vaccinated. Typically, your onboard cruise community vaccination rate is in the 95% range. As a result of Omicron, which we have seen is much more transmissible with much milder symptoms for those fully vaccinated, we have further strengthened our onboard health protocols, such as the requirement to wear a mask indoors at all times unless eating or drinking, and temporarily not allowing smoking in the casino. Even with such a high onboard community vaccination rate and enhanced protocols in place, there is a possibility of positive cases arising during your sailing, just as there is an inherent risk of COVID-19 anywhere people congregate or gather. Our protocols anticipate this possibility, and we will implement them as needed to protect the health and safety of everyone. We also work with local governments in all the ports of your itinerary who are informed of the ship's public health status before arrival, and together we decide if we can debark in their country. When we make these decisions, we consider the number of COVID positive cases on board and also the number of cases in the destination community, along with factors such as the community's vaccination status. Should we need to cancel a port of call, we will always do our best to find an alternative destination or work through a resolution for our missed port. You should also note that some onboard activities such as ice skating, rock climbing, laser tag, production shows, adventure ocean, and etc. could be impacted during your sailing as we adjust our plans to ensure that the health of both our guests and crew remain our priority. For our full protocols, click here. That is the Royal Caribbean website. And as always, health and safety protocols are subject to change. If you have any questions about these protocols, please reference our frequently asked questions for details. For sailings departing through January the 17th, if you prefer not to sail as a result of this information and would like to reschedule your cruise, we are available to assist you. To avoid waiting on the phone to reschedule or cancel, you can click there, which takes you to the Royal Caribbean website, and we will get the process started for you, or contact us at these numbers. Thank you for your understanding. We look forward to seeing you on board soon. Royal Caribbean International. And so there you go. It is a basic breakdown of what you can expect. Look, passengers, 95% vaccinated. Crew, vaccinated, getting booster shots. Increased health and safety protocols. More mask wearing, no smoking in the casino. I'm sure they're also increased their cleaning, disinfecting around the cruise ship, keeping up with the cleanliness of everything. If you've been on a cruise here in the last 6 months, the crew is constantly cleaning something. And, they let you know that when they come up to a cruise port, before arriving at that cruise port, there is a communication between the ship and the port saying, okay, this is how many cases we have on board. What's going on there in the cruise port? Do y'all have a bunch of cases in your area? What is your vaccination status in your country? Okay, all three of those factors can go into whether or not a cruise ship docks. It's not always the case that cruise ship pulls up to a port and they're like, oh, you have 3, 5, 10 cases of COVID on board, you can't stop here. There is more than one factor that goes into whether or not a cruise ship can stop at a cruise port. That is also something the media does not like to tell you, and they kind of leave that out of their stories as well. But they do say, look, even with all these health and safety protocols, there is still a possibility of COVID being on board the ship. It can still get in the crew. It can still get in the passengers. It's definitely a possibility because it is happening. We see it happening. We know it's happening. But I also like the fact that they point out, look, but this can also happen anywhere that there's people gathered together. So it can happen in your airports, your theme parks, your sporting events, music concerts, whatever the case may be. If there's people gathered together, there is always the possibility that someone could catch COVID or spread COVID around. It's just a fact of life. It's something that we live with right now. And they also let you know that, look, if it does get into the crew, let's say we have some performers that have issues with COVID, it can impact some of the activities and the shows on board the ship. If you have several members of your production cast that have COVID-19, if that's where the crew cases are, because remember, the crews generally bunk together or bunk in the same areas. So your musicians are in one area, your production people, your actors and actresses, they're going to be in one area, your housekeeping staff, maintenance engineers and whatnot on the ship. They all kind of have their groups that stick together around these cruise ships. So yeah, if you have a couple of cases, let's say, pop up in your entertainers, that's probably where the close contacts are going to be when they do the contact tracing. So yeah, I can see where that could possibly affect a show because they probably don't have extra, actors, actresses, and some of the onboard staff. They may not have a whole bunch of extra that can just fill into these positions as COVID cases happen. So activities on the cruise ship can be affected as well. And Royal Caribbean is upfront and honest about that. And look, just like Carnival has done a couple days ago, Royal Caribbean is saying the same thing. Look, we understand if these health and safety protocols don't work for you. We understand if the possibility of missing your ports don't work for you. And if they don't, you can reschedule your cruise or you can cancel your cruise. Royal Caribbean does offer the Cruise with Confidence program. And if this stuff doesn't work for you, get in contact with them. Visit their website, see what you can do to either move it or cancel your cruise. Because like always, I understand that you must do you. Now, while this email was from Royal Caribbean and it was about Royal Caribbean ships, I think you can apply just about everything in this email to all of the cruise lines. Look, all of the cruise lines are operating vaccinated. They're all requiring testing before you get on board. There's increased mask requirements, no smoking in casinos. It's not just Royal Caribbean that has been denied permission to stop at a cruise port. It's not just Royal Caribbean that's had issues with COVID-19 on board. It has been all of the cruise lines. So I think you can take these expectations, what you can really expect to see on a cruise ship, and you can apply it to all of the other cruise lines in some form, okay? You can see it across all of them. So I think this is a good example for everybody, even though it was sent to Royal Caribbean passengers. And of course, I also think it's really good information. All right, I hope you guys have enjoyed today's video. If you have, do me a favor, smash that like button. Have yourself a great day. And like always, we will see you out on the high seas.